you're a nervous wreck this week, fella. Look at you. You are a nervous man.
We've had some very big interviews this week, have you know.
I thought it was because of our guest.
No less than today, who we're going to be talking to as well. Right, let's get stuck into a brand new episode of The Offload, a special episode of The Offload today as well, as brought to you by 15 Kings.
Go on, 15 Kings.
Get yourself sorted for Christmas. Donncha, big guest, looking forward to it.
Yeah, can't wait. The great Joe Schmidt is going to be chatting to us. So I'm
nervous.
You are nervous, and you should be. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think he's got a bone to pick for you over not elling into a ruck correctly against Wales back in.
He's got a lot of bones
broken ankle.
Me, trying to get the ball when I should have been in the ruck, of course. But a man who dropped both of us from the Irish team. So no grudges, really. No.
I can't wait to chat to you. Hi, Joe. My life was going great. You came along. Now it's all over. You've had quite the week, fella. We're all voting today, so that means it's over for you. But you've pretty much grilled every politician in the country.
Far from grilled, but yeah, of course, the election, it's mad. It feels like Christmas. It doesn't feel like 4 weeks until Christmas, and it feels like the election is kind of blocked. No one's even put their Christmas trees up or anything, I don't feel like, because it's all been election, and particularly on Ireland M. We've had Pascal in, we've had Roderick in, we've had Mary Lou, with the whole lot. Do you know what, right, you retire from rugby and you have to go off and find something else.
Yeah.
You're a salesman, you're a teacher, whatever else. I'm on the telly, you were on the radio, and it's live. You get a great kick from it. But see, whenever you're interviewing a politician and you have no clue what you're talking about, and I'm trying to cram through their 100-page manifestos the night before.
Going, sure, they only wrote it the night before.
Well, they're all saying the bloody same thing. Yeah. And try to put the questions across it. But it gives me such a dread. I love the politics now. Love it, yeah.
Because I honestly thought you would be allergic to it. Like, not being harsh, you're really good at it, to be fair to you, because you keep going after them. You don't allow them off the question, which I kind of enjoy.
I think what I try to do is that I'm not a journalist. I'm not there looking for the inside scoop.
Soundbite.
All I'm trying to do is I spend all day long on that show listening to people and some of the difficult stories they're going through, and all I'm trying to do is reflect it, and I think it works. So
good on you. Because it could be a nightmare. It could be the equivalent, right, of Paul Hollywood chatting about cars, or, you know what I mean, Jeremy Clarkson chatting about queen cakes. To be fair, everyone's seen Tommy Bowe chatting to politicians. Jeez, Tommy, come out of it. To
be fair, Dunners, I think that is it. We might as well have Paul Hollywood or Jeremy Clarkson.
Good on you. You're doing a good job of it.
It's good crack. Here, listen, we've got Joe Schmidt coming in as well.
That's why the bead of sweat is on your brow.
Here, he's got that guy Suoli. He's come over. He's like a rugby league player. Like, they have so many kind of players that they could bring in from Aussie Rules and rugby league, which are huge over there. And it made me think, like, from the Irish point of view, are we missing a trick not trying to recruit a few more of the GAA lads into the rugby team? Am I going to get in trouble? Is this going to be another Michael D. Higgins thing? Am I going to say the wrong thing again?
See the Fijians bowing before Michael D. Now take that, Tommy Bowe. You kind of tick into your inner Fijian.
Here, isn't it weird though, just on that, how they got rid of it last week against Argentina? Michael D. didn't come out and shake their hands, and then for Fiji, then
I'd say he didn't fancy it. You know what I mean? It was it was another late kick-off. He was there 8 o'clock on a Friday night. No, do you know what? I'll sit in and watch Gogglebox.
It was It was amazing to see the respect he got from the Fijians.
Unbelievable. Good question. I don't think it's disrespectful in any way, because you're right, we've a playing pool of talent, and that's what Joe Schmidt is tapping into in Australia, taking players from
trying to, and
NRL,
has the opportunity to.
AFL, and we certainly, our best talent always is in our hurling and football, isn't it? That's where the majority go.
Because if you look at Munster, like West Cork, there's a lot of lads coming through into the Munster, and I wouldn't have always. Is West Cork a rugby stronghold?
It would have been Gaelic football. Yeah, and then it's that kind of crossover from
what
there.
Is it? How is it? Is
you
good coach or just an opportunity?
Yeah, you could say the same about Limerick hurlers though. Like, they've excelled and been brilliant, and then like we haven't had many Limerick forwards in our Munster pack for quite some time, but Who would you like to see, Tommy, if you could cross a few over? Is there any players that you like? For me, I always think, I looked at the Dubs when they were in their prime, man. Con O'Callaghan, some of his kick passing. If you could bring that into rugby, that like he can actually manipulate a ball to do something special, and the likes of Dean Rock knocking it over from anywhere. David Clifford.
Well, this is it, right? You have David Clifford. People talk about him as probably being one of the greatest, if not the greatest footballer of all time.
Yeah.
Like, he could do a job at centre, couldn't he?
Imagine him in the Munster centres.
Like, well, what the hell would Munster? We're talking Ireland here. Would you?
Hold on. Don't go too far. You're not starting him ahead of Bundyaki and Ringrose and
David
Henshaw.
Clifford, straight in 13.
Straight in 13. Tommy, you've lost it, fella.
Would you not? Honestly? Like, obviously he's going to have to play a little bit, and it's going to take a bit of time
and learn the game.
Might help
with this odd ball going, David. Yeah, actually, we didn't explain this to you. It's oval shaped and it bounces funny.
But right. Like, imagine him playing with Kerry at the minute, and he loves it. So he's not going to become a class player rugby. But I mean, if you think of the salaries that the rugby players are making, say 200 grand plus, the top players up to 400, 500, 600,000, some of the top players as well. Surely the GAA lads must look at that and go, if I could take a year now and try and learn the rules,
100%,
learn the odd shape ball, would you not give it a go?
I think you're bang on, because so many of the skills are transferable.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget, we got a brilliant strength and conditioner in with Munster called Damien Mendes, and his big area of expertise was speed, agility, quickness. Remember that was a big buzzword, SAC, SAQ.
Yeah, I love it.
And it had all the ladders and all the kind of drills.
I used to love whenever the backs would be doing our session and we look across and see the forwards with the ladders out doing your SAQs.
Because it was like
these perfect arms. A bunch of overweight robots trying to pretend to do.
That's what it was.
The ladder. High knees.
I'll never forget his first day, honestly. There was about 6 hurdles down. There was someone entwined in a ladder, and he was like, what the fuck is going on here, man? You know what I mean? This is an absolute shambles. And he's I can't believe how poor your basic mechanics are.
Really?
And then the academy came along. Who walks out? Tomás O'Leary. What are we doing?
Cork minor hurling captain, I think.
Yes, to the
All-Ireland winner.
Yeah, went through the drill. Boom, nailed it. He was there, whoa, what's going on with him? And we were all, that's Shawnee O'Leary's young fella. You know what I mean? Like, and he was there, what do you mean? And we were there, he's a hurler. And he was there like, there's the movement, man. That's what we need. Because
if you think like Henry Shefflin back in the day, Garrod Hegarty as well.
Yes.
Like, the size of him. I was actually playing golf down in Tralee there in the summer, and he was out with a couple of
Limerick lads. You man, Gillan, monsters. But even Joe Canning, you know what I mean? Those kind of ones that cross over, you would be like, whoa.
Lads, come on over. Honestly, how much do you want?
Honestly, we'll sort you out.
But I just do wonder, would any of them are they getting approached? Because I know Pat Spillane has always had a go at this, going like, to hell with the rugby ones, stepping on our turf.
Yeah.
But I just kind of think, like, listen, I'm from Monaghan. Rugby was not a big deal. No. Like, it's all Gaelic football. But my dad was huge into rugby, and he kind of got me into Monaghan Rugby Club at a young age. But there was no real opportunity for many of the lads. And I met Peter Canavan actually for a coffee there recently. And he's from Tyrone, obviously one of the greatest of all time. And he just said, I never had the opportunity, and I would have maybe loved to have had a go.
Amazing. But do you know what? I think it's what makes it special. What they have is different.
There's something special about GN community.
Exactly. Money doesn't touch that. No. So they're not playing for that, which makes it incredible, doesn't it?
Are your kids playing football at all?
Yeah, they play camogie, hurling and Gaelic football all down in Nemo, which is to the bane of a buddy of mine, Brian Cupper. So, I'm a bishop's son, man, and he sees them in their Nemo gear. He's like, jeez, man, what are you doing to us?
Well, my little fella as well, I've been taking him, my daughter, I'm trying to get her into it, but it's not as mad. But like, you just see, like, I'm taking them to a couple of different sports, but there's something about the Gaelic football community, like the resources they put in there, the amount of boys and girls playing.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Like,
They've nailed it.
and they do, like, we want that more in rugby, but geez, you just have to take your hat off to them.
Yeah.
Listen, we shall move on. Let's get into our big interview, of course. We've been looking forward to.
Do you want to hold hands?
I really need to go get a glass of water. Whatever about Simon Harris and Micheál Martin and all those lads. I'm more nervous about this than any.
Let's leave it after Joe, because I'm going to need to peel you up off the floor. But if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and like. We'd love to hear your comments. But let's get chatting to the great Joe Schmidt.
Here he is. Joe Schmidt, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you.
Thanks, man.
How are you? Back in Dublin again, enjoying it?
Enjoying the weather, Tommy. It's unbelievable. We trained in perfect sunshine yesterday. Almost t-shirt weather, not quite, but it was really nice.
Because you had it rough in Scotland. It was quite cold. Didn't we hear some of the lads saw snow for the first time?
Yeah, a whole lot of them. I couldn't believe it. I thought they would have seen snow at some stage, but yeah, and the funniest bit was we went to head off on the captain's run, and I said to Frank, the driver, I said, Frank, do you reckon we're going to get there? Yeah, I think so.
There's a chance.
We got 5 metres up the road and the bus started sliding.
And he goes, it with you and buses in Scotland?
Yeah. Well, that then became the standing joke because we'd had that problem.
Yeah.
A few
Before the
years
match,
ago.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that was a bit of a disaster, right? Didn't set us off to the greatest of starts. But you're back in Dublin. The sun is shining. It's a little bit cold, but are you catching up with people? Have you got a lot of people on the blower to you kind of wanting to meet for a coffee? Because you're here, for almost 10 years?
Yeah. So my wife Kelly and son Luke have come up as well, and my daughter Alice still lives here in our house, and so we've actually got Dylan Peach, one of the wingers, coming in to stay as well with his girlfriend Ella, because he got injured after the England game, so he had to fly back, but he's got a holiday planned for after the tour.
The nightmare.
So he's so he's flying back up, and he'll stay with us for a couple of days, or stay with family for a couple of days, and then come to the game on Saturday and then head off to his little tour up this end of the world, because
Fair
it's a long way
you.
to come up. Yeah.
What did you like? Because obviously, when you get an injury on tour, you're sent home, and you have these plans.
Yeah.
Did he ask you, can I stay in your house?
No, he just said, do you know somewhere to stay?
Oh, wow.
That's reasonable. And I said, wow, there's spare room at our place. And he
No
goes,
way. Good on you, Joe.
Be careful saying that on here, because there's a lot of people looking for a spare room in Dublin.
Yeah. So give Joe a call. Joe, have a spare room.
I had to ask my daughter, because she it's one of those things in Dublin. A lot of kids stay for a long time in the parents' home because it's so expensive, and I think our kids, they had a plan. If they stayed long enough, we'd leave. And that's what happened, Wow. So we left home and they get the house to themselves.
And how do you feel bringing Kelly and your son Luke, who obviously has epilepsy, and he was one of the main reasons I know he wanted to go back home to New Zealand for the kind of the help and the care down there. But are they happy to be back? Is it nice to be back in Dublin and kind of bringing back great memories? Because you got Irish citizenship when you were here as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and the kids did, and the help and care we got with Luke here was phenomenal. It was superb. It was really just for me to retire and make a break with the game, because I can't do things half-hearted, and I've failed miserably. I know, but
What was that like, Joe? Are you sitting around and is it just an itch you have to scratch to get back in the game?
No, it wasn't like that. It was more around. I think even New Zealand, World Rugby need a strong Australia. And it was just a few of us said, well, we'll help if we can. And so we're just working away, trying to help them get a few things organised. There's a guy, Peter Horn, who's a mate of mine who rang me and said, chip in and give a hand. So we'll try to get it underway. I feel like we're making progress, because it's all about, for us, it's all about being competitive by the time Andy brings the Lions over in July next year. So just working our way through these 4 games, it was a perfect window to be able to play the 4 teams that contribute to the British and Irish Lions, and try to just demonstrate to people that we can compete with those teams. And so far that's gone okay.
It's a tricky one for you because when you were with Ireland, you had Leinster before, so you kind of knew a lot of the players. When you were involved with New Zealand for a bit, you weren't involved with the Blues for a bit, where you're kind of going in cold with Australia. But you're back at that period, it's the start again. Whenever you came to Leinster and to Ireland, following on from Michael Cheika, where did you see, what was the low-hanging fruit? What was the things that you thought, I can make a difference here, the small wins at the start? What do you try, the stamp you try to put on?
I'm not really sure, Tommy, because it was quite broad brush. I do remember the first meeting I had, and the first discussions I had with Leo and Johnny, and then with Drico, and just they had an idea of how they'd like to play, and I just set a few challenges for them around if they wanted to play like that, they'd have to be good at some of the aspects that allowed them to play like that. And so they were brilliant. They drove the environment. It was very player driven.
So they were heavily involved in even kind of setting out the scene of what they wanted. Players were.
Yeah, I think those key leading players were, and then that kind of rippled through the team, and it was, sometimes you just land on your feet. It was a good group of people, let alone players, and they were driven, and so it was really just a case of kind of helping them help themselves.
As a coach there, Joe, do you have to cut your cloth with what you have? If they're coming saying, we want to be running it from everywhere, which that group probably were capable of. But we saw you with Claremont, with Mignoni playing that wide. We'd never seen anything like that, zipping us all around the pitch. Do you have to kind of...
Poor Donncha have to try and lay
honestly, trailing around them. One pass, cutting out like 8 of us, and we're all like, whoa, we're normally touching painting around here. But that evolving of the game, thinking, you know what I mean? And you did that with that Leinster group. The breakdown became a massive thing, the attention to detail everyone talks about, but you pushed the whole game on.
Well, I'm not sure it was me, but they drove the whole game on, and I think once if you set up some parameters you're really going to commit to, then the coach tries to hold people accountable for that, but so do the players. And one of the things that was brilliant is we had a group of players who held each other to account, but at the same time supported each other really well. So there was a lot of kind of pushing and support, but at the same time there was the odd bit of dragging along, and we had some. We had some great guys in that Claremont game, in that team, because Pierre was so quick and around the field. But Brock James and Murray Joubert, Aurélien Rougerie, they were some of the best passes flat to wide. And we could go from one side of the field with 3 passes to the other side. Wow, it was great.
It was beautiful to watch when you're trying to play against it, going, "Whoa, look at this whole pitch."
And then you came to the Irish team, and you had people like us trying to stand
to be fair,
and throw a pass off the bad hand. What are you talking about?
You got rid of the deadwood quite quick. You were dead right, Joe. You were dead right.
Donncha didn't last long in
it was.
You don't have to say
no.
anything. We understand.
Do you know what can I say though? I'll never forget it, Joe, because it's amazing. You announced your first squad. I was in 3-year camps. Really enjoyed it, but your first squad came about, and it was. I'll never forget the date, the 22nd of October 2014. Because my little girl Robin was born that day, so like 3 a.m, she was born. Between all the jigs and reels, I was coming out of the hospital. Phone call from Joe Schmidt, and in my head, I've heard from all the lads Joe's attention to detail. I was there. He's got a midwife on speed dial, and he's ringing me to say congratulations.
Oh no!
I'm never going to walk in. No, not at all. But I remember just a really.
What did the call say?
It was, I'm in naming a squad today at 12 o'clock, and you're not in it. And I remember you just being, but no resent in any way, because you were straight down the line to me. You were like, you're not playing enough at Munster. There's areas of your game you need to grow on, but I need to see you more. And I remember coming away from the phone call, obviously being a little bit gutted, but being in absolutely no doubt. But that must be a hard aspect of it for you, Joe, when, like you're mentioning there, people staying with you this weekend, but then you also have to make calls on them starting or their careers.
Yeah, and it's the bit I like the least.
Yeah.
You know, we've given 18 guys their first Wallabie jersey in the year so far. It's the most in the professional era, and that's a great part of it.
Yeah.
Seeing their excitement, because it's an ambition partially achieved. They want to be successful in a Wallabie jersey, so there's a fair bit to go there, but they've at least got their opportunity in it. But at the other end of the spectrum is ringing guys to say they're outside the squad, or they're not yet ready to go, and even selection day. You know, the boys are getting clever now. I'm trying to find them on a Thursday morning, maybe.
You don't have to tell us. We're honestly ninjas. We know certain paths you don't walk down.
And the problem is that, and it was actually probably a great thing, but sometimes not the best, because when you find out you're dropped, it's not a case of you're being dropped just because they're better. It's because you'd set out 5 different, and you would give a clear reason, and you didn't do this. You're missing out on that. You need to improve on that. And I know Paul O'Connell is in the papers this week talking about the impact that he's still benefiting from that, learning that actually giving players, instead of just giving a bit of feedback, giving a pathway to get better. And I think that was something that you wanted to take in, because it is a difficult part, but if you give somebody something they can actually work on and grow on, it might not help them get back into the team, but it'll certainly make them a better player.
Yeah, I'm just an ordinary English teacher, and the thing for
get
me,
out of that. Come on.
No, the thing
We fear you more as an English teacher than a coach, Joe.
The people who might be listening to this podcast might not understand, Joe, but we know the detail and whatever. But listen, that's what you got to do if you want to be at the best, if you want to the top level.
That's the thing. Like, if I get a set of essays in on a particular topic, and I just give them a grade and give them back, well, where do they go from there? I think the most important thing is, the little comments around, hey, you could grow this idea with a bit of evidence from the novel, or you could grow this idea, or this idea contradicts what you said earlier, or whatever, just to try to get them to formulate their thinking in a more organised fashion, or with more support from the text, or whatever. Yeah. Not just give them a grade, but give them a way. Yeah. And it was the same sort of thing with rugby.
And is it the same then with a team when you take over a team? Because I remember as well in the early days, Newgrange was kind of a big enough area into the Irish team. They were the pillars. Yeah. And we had to do that mural, and we all as a team drew different segments of the mural. And then, of course, we went as a team down to Newgrange to share and to talk about the history and the legacy. Is it something that you try to embed into the team, what it means to the jersey, but actually what's gone before you?
Yeah, a little bit. And it was difficult for me. I got a guy, Dermot Fiorta, to come in and talk about history. He's obviously a professor of history, And not being Irish, I have to go back to my great-great-grandmother to get my initial Irish roots, albeit my more recent Irish citizenship. But there's a thing in New Zealand, or in Māori in New Zealand, called your tūranga waiwai, your standing place for the feet, where you can stay or feel strong. And so I just wanted us to understand that we had a standing place, that we could be strong, and we talked about the 70 million, the diaspora that supported the team from afar, and it was brilliant. I remember going on tour to Australia in 2018, and the amount of Irish in the crowd. They hadn't all travelled over. No. They just,
they're all our teachers.
Well,
could you send them back, please?
We can't build a house around here without them.
All the lovely infrastructures and hospitals now you have over in Australia.
No, actually, my daughter-in-law, Sarah, she's a doctor, and they're out in Melbourne, my son and daughter-in-law, and they flew her out to Melbourne. Job organised, and all looked after, just because isn't that a great way to get medical staff? You don't have to train them, get them already trained and fly them out. And I think it is one of the real problems.
you touched on it there, though, that sense of purpose, because I don't think in any other sport it matters as much. I think when you go and you put on an international jersey, you have to have those roots, because it's calling on everything. It's calling on your kind of your physical prowess, your game intelligence, but also there's an emotional tie where you're from. You have to tap into it. And just for you, trying that now again with Australia, how you find and managing that, digging into the DNA?
Yeah, that's a great question, because again, you know, I don't have Australian heritage. I can't say where they stand and where they or how they feel strength. But as a group, they are coming together better and better. I think it's like anything, you know, they come from different squads and different places and different backgrounds. So it's one of those things where you try to just you start with the commonalities in the group. You know, what do they all share? And that's the rugby first of all. Mm-hmm. And so you try to create your first bit of DNA around the rugby, and then you start to spread it more about the relationships, the contemporary group that you have, and then you try to maybe just dig it a little bit deeper with people coming in. We've had people in for lunch like George Schmidt and Andrew Slack and Paul McLean, James Horwell.
You need Ray
to the game.
You need to get Ray going. Is that the break answer? Get her in. That's who you need to be shouting to. Try celebrations.
Well.
Oh, don't be bringing up child celebrations. That's not allowed.
Such a touchy one. That was the end of you, Tommy.
Exactly. Could be the end of a few of the Aussie players, I'd say.
Break on the sorted.
What about, so obviously you talk about that Australian heritage. What you did have, and I have to ask about this as well, is your New Zealand heritage. And of course, you were involved in the New Zealand team going into that quarter final.
Oh, you broke our hearts, John. You broke our hearts.
I didn't.
Oh, you
They were a pretty good team. It wasn't me.
That play off the line out had all you on it.
There was a lot of Joe Schmidt fingerprints all over that performance. Was it? Listen, you were there to do a job, and you did a hell of a job. But you would have had a lot of history with the likes of Johnny and Keith Earls and Peter O'Mahony and Andy Farrell as well.
Yeah.
Good to get one over them, though.
It wasn't. It wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the back end of it.
Oh, did you?
Saw you with Luca spending more time than Johnny.
Yeah. No, I've got huge respect for Johnny, obviously, and for so many of those guys. Keith Earls, you mentioned, Pete, Andy, you know, Simon Easterby,
so many,
John Foggs,
Paul O'Connell again.
Yeah. Paulie was there, and you had even Jason Cowman, who did such a good job in that strength and conditioning area, and even the support staff that people don't see, like Revs and Willie, the
Willie
guys,
Bennett,
Willie
greatest man of all time,
absolute legend. Willie, one day we were going to England, and he would go over on the bus beforehand.
That's right,
and we got a car organised. Simon Easterby really had the idea, but we got a car organised and we sent him off to Cheltenham. He loves Cheltenham.
Yeah.
And he went off to Cheltenham races for the day, and we got a couple of people to look after him.
Yeah, just give context.
Well, he was the team masseuse.
And not even the most positive person of all time.
Listen,
losing to the All Blacks by 50 points at half time, and Willie come over and go, "You're flying it, others, keep it up."
And we used to call it a bit of go for a bit of penicillin. Because if you're feeling a bit down at the time and the legs half hanging off, Willie's giving you a rub going, I've never felt you feeling so good. Yeah, absolutely.
6 penalties at the weekend, Donncha. You were brilliant. Well done.
So there was that. It must have been tough, that New Zealand one, though. For, like, a bittersweet in a way.
Yeah, I think I'd have known Ian Foster for a long time, and he was copping a lot of flack in New Zealand, and
sure.
I was delighted for him, because the players played for him. They, and he was coaching that team and doing a really good job, and so I was delighted for him at the same time. But it's always mixed emotions, and same. I'm looking forward with dread
to the weekend.
To the weekend, but just it's that paradox of having loved my time here, but having a job to do, and I won't flinch on my job. I'll try to do it the best I can to support the team that I'm currently coaching, but I'm looking forward to catching up with some of the players and the staff.
Just on that game, Joe, if we take off our green and black goggles, just for rugby, it was an incredible game of rugby. Just for anyone that loves the game, is it getting difficult or more challenging now, though, with the changing of the rules, the use of the whole squad, your whole bench, having to constantly evolve and move on? It seemed like we were in a really good place there with rugby. And again, it's just a different wrinkle in terms of rules, and everything is in flux again.
Yeah, it does fluctuate, and then people adjust, and I think the regulators adjust, and the game balances up again. We've had, not just because we managed to get our nose in front at the end, but our game against England with the changing of scores and the up and down. You know, to get a game that finishes 42-37 and an international at Twickenham is pretty special. And I think people enjoyed watching that. You know, it was, personally for me, it wasn't good for the heart.
I could imagine.
Good for the soul maybe, but not good for the heart.
All the best ones to win.
Less defence. Defence is totally overrated.
Well, the defence has become so systemised that it's harder and harder to break down. Yeah. So you know, people talk about you can't really just use a sledgehammer because you won't beat the door down. You've got to get the scalpel out and work out how you can make the fine incisions rather than just trying to beat teams up.
You did go into World Rugby though for a bit, and was it a case of trying to get the best minds into a room to try and see how we can evolve the game? Was that a difficult task to do when you were over there?
Yeah, it was really difficult because it was during COVID and everything was done. I went back down to New Zealand, so everything was done at the end of the day and the start of the day. So it was
hard to make a change in that sort of situation.
Yeah, because I think you need to get people together to really be able to drive change, so that you can read body language and genuinely get support for different ideas. And I guess one of the things I'd always had frustrations with how the things would change and coaches or players wouldn't necessarily be overly well consulted or contribute to the changes. And so it was, you can complain about things externally, or you can try to get in amongst it and try to change from within. And it was hard to get within from a screen down the other end of the world. So and I wouldn't be big on sitting still for that amount of time in a day. So I didn't intend, it started going into the Blues, started over a cup of coffee with Tanu Umanga, who was the defence coach at the time. And I'd had a game of golf with Leon McDonald when I'd gone back, and that, after a coffee and a game of golf with John Hart, who was involved with the Blues, the ex-All Black coach, that suddenly merged into a 2-day-a-week coaching defence for the Blues.
Oh, it must have been a hell of a coffee.
Which Joe became doesn't do 2 days a week.
Which became 7 days a week, Tommy. The first 4 weeks we were in Queenstown, locked up. In
could be worse
in isolation.
Places, to be fair.
Super
in isolation,
place.
nightmare.
I think it's worse places to be. Well, think about the rules, and particularly looking at Australia at the minute. And I kind of think back to what you did when you came into Ireland. You came in, you gave us a path and said, well, listen, what can we be the best in the world at? And you looked at the Gaelic football background. You had the likes of Rob Kearney, Simon Zebo, Luke Fitzgerald,
Tommy Bowe.
In the back three, and Jared Payne, who's a fullback, Robbie Henshaw, who were great in the air. So let's go after them, box kicks. And it worked so well for a long time. And you see him with the new rule of this kick escort, where players are allowed to contest. I would imagine with Australia, this could be a point of difference for you, given the Aussie rules and the AFL, the kind of level of player you have in that squad.
Yeah, I think it's playing to strengths, but also playing to how people want to play. If you try to say, right, this is how we're going to play, and nobody really wants to play like that, then I don't think you're necessarily going to be successful for very long. I think you've got to almost
Now you did stop offloads with me in Ireland now, and I never got to get any passes.
A great call, Joe. A great call. You know what I mean?
To be fair, I dropped most of them. That's why the decision was made.
And he couldn't barely eat one.
Yeah. Well, no, you know, you will have seen that with Leinster, we offloaded a lot.
Oh, I know.
And so that was a successful way of playing, and it was something they wanted to do. I don't know if you remember where that whole thing came from, because it didn't continue throughout, but we played Australia in the second game. We played Samoa in the first game. The Australian game, we lost 32-15. Mm-hmm. They scored off a couple of loose offloads, loose balls. And the very next week, I said, well, if you think they score off loose ball, the All Blacks...
Look what's coming.
The All Blacks had... Yeah. They were on a roll as well. They had depth in their squad. They had a fantastic squad. And I said, hey, I tell you what, let's not make any offloads in this game. Let's make them make every single tackle. Mm-hmm. And I was having dinner with a few of the crew and Richie McCaw, and one of them said to Richie, you know, this was in the build-up to last year's World Cup, what's the toughest game you've ever played in? And he said, well, I can tell you the toughest first 20 minutes I ever played in was in Dublin against Ireland in 2013.
Oh,
we couldn't see our way back into the game. It was 19-0. We had forced them to make all those tackles, and so, yeah. We did get offloading back in.
Oh, I know. But I was gone at that stage.
Yeah. But for that game, we just said, hey, let's give them nothing cheap. They have to earn everything they get. And in the end, they earned it at the end of that game. We, again, you know, we just, I felt we're pretty unlucky, but sometimes you just got to earn your luck. We went for a line out, and it's a story people won't know, but it's another coaching mistake I made. But we were driving for the line, and if Nigel had let it go just a bit longer, Conor Murray went blind, and I think we would have possibly scored. But he blew for the penalty, and that was fine. And we came back, and John Plumtree was in the coach's box. He was the forwards coach, and he said, Joe, let's take the line out again. And I said, no, we're 5 points up. Yeah, we'll kick the three. And Johnny was on his last legs. He'd been beaten up all day, and he missed that one, and it just allowed them to stay close enough with about 5 minutes to go. Wow. But I think maybe Plum was right, and maybe we should have gone for the corner again.
They all come in mistakes. I think of that myself. I was in the ruck at the end. There's always those little things. But one thing that you built on that is that 3 minute period at the end, and that we built that final from that kick-off, 3.5 minutes, I think it was, of can you sustain this to create history, to beat this New Zealand team for the first time ever. And after every training session, no matter how wrecked we were, we did that extra 4.5 minutes. Yeah. And then, of course, Chicago came, beat the All Blacks, is a day that will live with Irish people forever. So, you know, those mistakes happen, but they gave the belief to this Irish team to go on and create something that they never thought they could do.
Yeah, and I thought, Tommy, the Six Nations after that, we won that Six Nations on the back of those 3.5, those 4 minute little blocks that we used to do to build belief that we can stay in the game, that we can stay in our role. We don't have to overchase anything different if we are, if we are supporting each other. Mm-hmm. And I thought it, that Six Nations was. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the way you guys really took the mantle, and even the one game we did lose in Twickenham, we scored a fantastic try with Rob going through, and I think Danny Keir got through on an inside ball at one stage.
Tyke Furlong gave an inside pass.
Oh, that was 2018.
The Grand Slam game.
Yeah, the Grand Slam game, and that was some of the things that I know people will say. I'd reduce the offload number, but you had tight head props offloading, you know. It's not a bad thing.
No. We actually watched that game together, and Jamie was with us as well. I'll give you context of different scales of being out of the game. So Jamie, who probably should have still been on the pitch, unfortunately was injured, and he was with the two of us watching it. But the final whistle won, and thankfully due to yourself and the team, we'd won the Grand Slam in Twickenham. And I'm sitting in between the two boys, and I look around and they're both in tears. And I look to Jamie, and they're, Jamie, are you all right? And he's there. I should be out there, man. I should be out there. And I'm there. You're all right, Jamie. You should be out there. And I look at Tommy ball in his eyes. I say, what's up with you? He's there. I dropped my point.
True.
Yeah.
Scales.
Wow.
Time
heals
everything, Jamie.
Listen, we know we are short on time, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Listen, this weekend, back in the Aviva, it must be amazing. Like, it's going to be a bittersweet, as you said. Exciting to give it. And I'd say you're going to get a great response from the Irish fans.
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things where just my daughter who lives here and my son was still living here, and they were saying, "Oh, Dad, you've gone down in the popularity after that quarterfinal." and again, I can't control any of that. All you can really do is just do your job, care about the people you're working with, and as long as you're doing that, the one thing I would say is that. The people, even the people in the street, the people that I have seen so far, they're just so. The weather might not be that warm, but the warmth of the people makes a difference.
Joe, I think
seriously,
I wouldn't read into that. I mean, one of the most amazing Irish coaches that we had to win 3 Six Nations, to be so successful with Leinster and stuff as well. You're not going to help your popularity this weekend if you upset things this weekend. So be careful there. But looking ahead to the Lions as well, obviously, to get this job with Australia, to take them from where they were in the world standings, to beat England, to beat Wales. Obviously didn't go well for you against Scotland, but the Lions, that's the carrot. That must be the thing that you can't wait. And yourself and Andy Farrell, who were close in the coaching box together, going up against each other. What an opportunity for you.
Well, yeah, it's less an opportunity for me and more an opportunity for Australian rugby, because it's at a bit of a low ebb. We've had fantastic messaging. Even on the back of the Bledisloe games, we lost 31-28 to the All Blacks in Sydney in a game that, again, sells. It promotes the game so well. There was some super tries scored in that game, and some super running rugby, and people really did get behind the game. And so I'm just hoping that next July can be a real celebration of the game. People can come along and enjoy the way the game's played, and enjoy the atmosphere that surrounds rugby. I think the way you can intermingle fans, and even being in Murrayfield with Australian and Scottish supporters side by side, chatting, one going for a pint and getting the other one a pint and things like that. I just love the whole the way that rugby is supported.
It's what's special.
That's
about
rare in Scotland, someone being that generous. They normally they're meant to be twice.
Guaranteed there's going to be a lot of Irish doctors and nurses and teachers and everyone else in Australia looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Joe, just on behalf of myself and Tommy, thank you so much for joining us on the pod. We really appreciate it. But also, look, we will be hoping you get the performance you want. Maybe not the result this weekend, but just on behalf, you mentioned them there, everyone that loves our game in Ireland, thank you so much for what you did for it. The duty of any of us that play is to leave it in a better spot, and you certainly did that, and we're so grateful to you. Thanks so much.
And the Irish team are still benefiting from it. Thank you, Joe. Pleasure. Great to see you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Good on you, Joe. Well on, boy. Thanks.
Brilliant. Right, there you have it from the Offload and the great Joe Schmidt. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great. He's still super. He's still got it though. When he looks at you, he can go through you, can't he?
I love that he still keeps going, it's the people behind me.
Yeah, that old classic.
Stop, you know what I mean? That, Joe. We know.
You know what? That's like, I didn't have the balls to say it to him, but it actually takes away from how, you know what I mean? Like, you're there, just take the bouquet. Hey, it's totally fine for you to be class.
Going to be really interesting to see him in the Aviva as well. I'd say he's going to get a massive reception.
Good on you, Joe.
Hopefully he doesn't do the job and bloody win.
Yeah, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
Thanks for tuning in to the Offload. We'll catch you again next week.